I pulled into the driveway at 10 past 10 on Christmas Eve. 12 degrees, wind howling through the porch eaves hard enough to make the metal barn door bang every few seconds. My boots crunched frozen gravel. Inside, wood smoke mixed with the diesel smell from the generator I'd started that afternoon. Christine stood in the kitchen doorway wearing a red dress I'd never seen. Full makeup, heels. I was stirring beef stew in my flannel shirt. The doorbell rang. Marcus Venn walked in like he owned the place. Christine touched his arm, poured wine, laughed too loud at his jokes. During dinner, I mentioned something about the quiet life. She snapped. Maybe tonight I'll find real men who know how to make a woman feel alive. Marcus laughed. Uncomfortable, but he laughed. I set my fork down, walked to the door, blocked it with my body. Nobody's leaving. Marcus, tell my wife what you said about her property last week. I pulled the folded paper from my shirt pocket. His face went white. Marcus stammered something about a misunderstanding. I unfolded the paper on the table between the wine glasses and the half-eaten stew. Deed transfer document, county seal, my ranch, 320 acres my father built from nothing in 1947. When did I sign this? I kept my voice level. 40 years as a large animal vet teaches you to stay calm when a rancher's prize bull is bleeding out. You examine, you diagnose, you don't panic. Marcus looked at Christine. She stared at her plate. Roy, listen. January 15th. I pointed to the transfer date. 2 weeks from now, this property goes from Roy Dalton to Venn Development LLC. I looked at Marcus. That's you. The wind rattled the windows. Christine's perfume, something expensive I'd never smelled on her before, cut through the beef and wood smoke. It's not what you think, Christine said. Then explain it. We were discussing estate planning. Marcus has experience with forging signatures. I pointed to my name at the bottom. Even in the dim kitchen light, you could see it. The R was wrong. I've signed my name 10,000 times on vet bills, vaccination records, emergency call sheets. I know my own handwriting. Christine stood up fast. Her chair scraped against the floor. She reached for her wine glass and knocked it over instead. Red spread across the white tablecloth like blood on snow. You're being paranoid. Am I? I pulled out my phone, took 3 photos of the document. The flash made Marcus flinch. What are you doing? Christine's voice went sharp. Sending these to someone who'll know what to make of them. I typed out a message. Hit send. The whoosh sound felt louder than it should have. Marcus found his voice. Roy, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Christine asked me to look at some paperwork, give her advice about property value. That's all this is. Property value. And I looked at him, 45 maybe, expensive watch, hair product, the kind of man who measures things for a living. How much is my ranch worth, Marcus? I don't... Ballpark, he swallowed. 4 million, maybe 6, depending on development potential. Development. I let the word sit there. My cattle ranch, 320 acres of grassland my father cleared by hand. You see development potential. Christine grabbed her purse. I'm leaving. No, you're not. I didn't move from the door, just stood there. 67 years old, flannel shirt, work boots, but I've pulled breech calves in blizzards and wrestled steers twice my weight. I can stand in a doorway. You can't keep me here, Christine said. I'm not keeping you anywhere. I'm waiting for Sheriff Grady? Called him before you got home. That stopped her. You what? 20 minutes ago. Told him I found some documents that concerned me, asked him to come out, take statements, make it official. Marcus stood up now. You're making a huge mistake. The only mistake I made was not seeing this coming. Outside, the wind picked up. The lights flickered once, twice. Generator coughed, but held steady. Marcus pulled out his phone, checked something. His face changed. What? Christine asked. Blizzard warning. National Weather Service just issued it. Through January 10th. So? So the roads are going to be impassable by midnight. He looked at me. We're all going to be stuck here. I smiled. Didn't mean to, but I did. Then I guess we'll have plenty of time to talk. The lights flickered again. This time the generator died. Darkness dropped over us like a blanket. The generator kicked back on after 30 seconds. Light returned. So did the sound of tires on gravel. Sheriff Tom Grady knocked twice before coming in. He'd been sheriff for 15 years, knew me from a decade of ranch calls. His boots carried road salt smell into the kitchen. Roy, he nodded. Then to the others. Ma'am, sir. Thanks for coming, Tom. You said something about documents. I handed him the deed transfer. He read it slowly, lips moving slightly, set it on the table. This looks like civil court territory, property dispute between spouses. Look at the signature. He picked it up again, held it toward the light, frowned. Christine started crying. Real tears, I'll give her that. Years of practice, probably. Tom, I don't know what's happening. Roy's been acting strange lately, paranoid. He won't listen to me about anything. I asked Marcus for advice. He's a friend, just a friend. About estate planning, that's all this is. Estate planning? Tom looked at her. For property that's in your husband's name? We're married. I assumed. Marcus stepped forward, smooth, confident, the kind of voice that closed deals. Sheriff, I can clear this up. I'm a real estate consultant. Christine called me a few weeks ago, concerned about her future. Roy's 67. She wanted to understand their assets, make sure she'd be taken care of if something happened. Standard stuff. I drew up some paperwork to show her options, that's it. Options that involve transferring my ranch to your company. I kept my voice flat. Sample documents, templates, nothing official. It has a county seal. Preliminary filing, to show the process, not legally binding. Tom looked at me. Roy, without proof this was done with intent to defraud, I can't arrest anyone. This is paperwork. Could be a misunderstanding, could be something else. But it's civil court either way. Christine grabbed his arm, actually grabbed it. He's scaring me, Tom. He blocked the door, wouldn't let me leave. I think he's having some kind of episode. I called you before anyone tried to leave, I said. Everything's been voluntary. Tom sighed, the sound of a man who didn't want to be making a Christmas Eve house call. Here's what's going to happen. Everyone's staying in their own space tonight. No contact. Morning comes, you folks sort this out with lawyers. Roy, if you want to file something formal, courthouse opens day after tomorrow. Day after tomorrow is the 26th? Right. They'll be closed through New Year's, skeleton staff. Tom pulled on his coat. Then you file when they open. January 2nd, most likely. He paused at the door. Roads are going to be bad. That blizzard's coming in fast. You all might want to stay put for a few days. He left. Red and blue lights disappeared down the drive. Christine went to the guest room, locked the door. Marcus took the upstairs bedroom, said nothing. I waited until midnight, put on my heavy coat, walked out to the barn. Cold hit like a fist. Breath came out in clouds. Inside, the horses shifted in their stalls. Hay smell, leather, the familiar darkness. I called Cal Hendricks. He answered on the second ring, awake. He'd been awake since I sent the photos. Tell me, I said. Papers rustled on his end. He'd printed everything. 70 years old, retired county clerk, still preferred hard copies. It's a forgery. I'd bet my pension on it. The signature's wrong. The notary seal looks legitimate, but I'll need to verify the number. The transfer date. Roy, that's the problem. January 15th. Right. You discovered this tonight. December 24th. So? Montana law. 30 days from discovery to file a challenge on property fraud. You found it tonight, you've got until January 23rd. My stomach dropped. Cal, the courthouse closes tomorrow, opens January 2nd with limited staff, full operations January 6th, but that's not the worst part. Wind screamed against the barn, the sound of winter digging in. What's the worst part? That blizzard hits in 2 hours. Weather Service says roads will be closed 3 weeks minimum, maybe more. Rural routes like yours? He paused. Roy, you might not be able to get to the courthouse at all. And if you can't file by January 23rd, the transfer becomes valid. I'm sorry. I stood there in the dark, horses breathing, hay under my boots, my father's barn, his legacy, 40 years of my life. They planned this, I said. The timing, the weather, all of it. Looks that way. I'm trapped here with them for 3 weeks. Cal's voice went quiet. Use it. Watch them. Document everything. When those roads open, you drive straight to town and we bury them. I hung up, walked back through the wind. The house sat dark except for 2 windows, guest room, upstairs bedroom. January 15th was 3 weeks away. Cal didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. He called back at 2 in the morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at that deed document under the lamp, coffee going cold in my cup. I'm in the county record system, he said. Remote access. Took some doing, but I got in. And found the original deed, 1947, your father's name, Floyd Dalton, 160 acres initially, purchased from the Henderson estate. He added the other 160 in 1952. Both parcels, Roy, Both of them are solely in his name. Then transferred to you in 1979 when he died. Solely to you. I gripped the phone tighter. Christine? Never added. I checked every filing from your marriage date forward. She's not on the title. Not on any amendment. Not anywhere. The relief felt like air after drowning. So the transfer can't happen. She has no legal standing to sign over property she doesn't own. Even if your signature was real, hers is meaningless. But Roy... His voice changed. Careful. Marcus knows this. He has to. Anyone doing property transfers checks title history first. Basic due diligence. Then why forge it? Because most people don't check. Most people see official-looking papers and trust them. If you hadn't found this, if you discovered it after January 15th, you'd be fighting an uphill battle. Possession is 9/10. Once it's filed and processed, even fraudulent transfers take months to unwind. Outside, snow started. I could hear it against the window. Soft at first, then harder. What else did you find? Papers shuffled. Cal's reading glasses clicked against the phone. Marcus Venn Development LLC, registered in Denver 3 years ago. I pulled his business filings. He's done 6 property transactions in the last 18 months, all rural properties, all with elderly owners. He paused. All processed right before major development announcements, subdivisions, commercial zones. He flips them fast. You think he's done this before? I know he has. I found 3 complaints filed in other counties, all withdrawn or settled privately. And Roy, one of those properties belonged to Vanessa Whitfield. The name hit me. Christine's cousin's wife. Used to own 80 acres outside Billings. Family farm. Marcus transferred it to himself last April. She lost everything. I sat back. The chair creaked. Coffee smelled bitter in my nose. Christine knows what he is. Probably recruited him, Cal said. Or he recruited her. Either way, they're working together. But here's what matters right now. You've got leverage. That original deed proves ownership. We need to protect it. How? Emergency restraining order. Judge Carver handles those. He's on call Christmas Day for domestic situations. I can get you in front of him by phone if we move fast. It's Christmas. It's your ranch. I looked at the clock. 3:45 in the morning. Snow falling harder now. Wind picking up. The blizzard's leading edge. Make the call. Cal worked fast. By 6 in the morning, I was on a conference line with Judge Carver and a bleary court clerk taking notes. Cal had sent everything ahead. Photos of the forged deed, copies of the original 1947 title, his analysis of the signature discrepancies. Judge Carver's voice was gravel and cigarettes. Mr. Dalton, I'm granting a temporary restraining order preventing any property transactions involving your ranch for 30 days pending investigation. That gives you time to file formal charges. Ms. Harper here will process the paperwork and send copies to the county recorder's office. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me yet. This just buys you time. You'll still need to prove fraud. Get yourself a good lawyer. The call ended. Ms. Harper, the emergency clerk, said she'd file everything electronically. It would be in the system by noon. I made fresh coffee, stood at the window watching snow pile up. Already 6 inches. The weather service had been right. Footsteps on the stairs. Marcus came down, hair perfect despite everything. He'd slept, apparently, or pretended to. Roads look bad, he said. They'll get worse. He poured coffee, added cream from the fridge. Comfortable. Like he lived here. Look, Roy, last night got out of hand. We should talk. Clear this up. Nothing to clear up. There's always room for understanding, compromise. I turned from the window, looked at him. 45 years old, expensive watch catching the lamplight, measuring eyes. You tried to steal my father's ranch. That's not using forged documents, exploiting my wife, timing it around weather and courthouse closures so I couldn't fight back. His face went careful, professional mask. You're making accusations you can't prove. Judge Carver disagreed 2 hours ago. Emergency restraining order. No property transactions on this ranch for 30 days. It's already filed. The mask cracked, just for a second, but I saw it. You can't do that. Already done. He set the coffee down. Too hard. It sloshed. This is a mistake. For you, maybe. He walked to the window, looked out at the snow, coming down in sheets now. His BMW was already buried to the door handles. Roads are closing, he said quietly. Yep. I need to get back to Denver. Too late for that. He turned, something new in his eyes. Not smooth anymore, not confident. How long? Weather service says 3 weeks, maybe more. We stood there. 2 men in a kitchen, coffee smell mixing with wood smoke, wind howling, snow piling up like evidence you can't ignore. Christine's door opened. She came out in a robe, saw us standing there. What's going on? We're snowed in, Marcus said. She looked at me, then at the window, then back at me. For how long? I smiled. Long enough. The blizzard lasted 6 days. We lived in the same house like strangers in a boarding room. Christine stayed in the guest bedroom. Marcus worked from the upstairs on his laptop when the generator kept the internet alive. I kept to the kitchen and the barn. On December 30th, the snow stopped. Roads stayed closed, drifts 12 feet high in places. The county had 3 plows for 80 miles of rural highway. I kept working. Cattle don't care about human drama. They need hay, water. I broke ice on the troughs every morning at 5, fed the horses, fixed the gate latch that had frozen and cracked. New Year's came and went. January 2nd, the main highway opened. Our road didn't. Wouldn't for another week, the county said. Maybe 2. I watched Marcus through the window sometimes, saw him on his phone, pacing, saw Christine join him in the living room when she thought I was in the barn. They kept their voices low. On January 5th, my phone rang at 4 in the morning. Doc Emerson, young vet, 42, took over the practice when I retired 5 years back. Good man, still called me for the difficult cases. Roy, I need you. Henderson Place, first calf heifer, been trying for 6 hours. She's exhausted. Calf's breech. And I was already pulling on my coveralls. On my way. Roads? I'll make it. Took the truck. 4-wheel drive. Chains on the tires. Snow packed hard enough on the back roads to hold weight if you were careful. 40 minutes to drive what usually took 10. The Henderson barn smelled like every barn in winter. Hay and manure and animal heat. The heifer lay on her side in the straw, breathing hard, sides heaving. Doc Emerson knelt beside her, sleeves rolled up. Front legs are back, he said. I can't get Purchase to turn him. I washed up. Cold water from the spigot. Soap that smelled like iodine and purpose. Pulled on the long glove. Knelt in the straw. Sometimes things get stuck in the wrong position, I said. You don't force them. You reach in careful, find the legs, feel your way through. The heifer shifted, tired, running out of time. I worked by feel, found one leg folded back, then the other, slowly. Talking to the heifer the whole time, soft voice, steady hands. The calf was big, good size, but positioned wrong. Everything was wrong. Got to reposition, why I said. Can't pull him like this. He'll never come. Took 20 minutes. Slow work. Careful work. Doc Emerson helped when I needed him. Young hands, steady, learning. The calf came wet and alive, bawling before he hit the straw. The heifer turned her head, started licking. That sound, mother to child, older than any of us. Beautiful work, Doc Emerson said. Just patience. We cleaned up. The farmer paid in cash and coffee. I drove home as the sun came up. The sky was that hard blue you only get after snow, bright enough to hurt. I got back to the ranch at 11. Christine's bedroom door was locked. Nothing unusual there. But Marcus's truck was gone. Tracks led down the driveway, fresh. Someone had plowed. Private company, probably. Expensive. Inside, the house felt different. The living room furniture had been moved. The couch sat at a new angle. The bookshelf that had been against the north wall was now against the east, measuring. Someone had been measuring the space. I walked through the house. Christine's door stayed locked. I didn't knock. In the kitchen, a business card sat on the counter. Thick paper, embossed. Reginald Hatch, attorney at law, Denver, Colorado, property and estate litigation. I put it in my pocket. Upstairs, in the bedroom that used to be my parents', boxes sat stacked by the closet. 3 of them, packed neat, tape across the tops. I opened the first one. Christine's clothes, the expensive kind. Silk, cashmere. Things I'd never seen her wear on the ranch. Second box, more clothes, shoes, a jewelry case. Third box, my father's things, his Wubby 2 medals, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, the folded flag from his funeral, his pocket watch, the letters he wrote my mother from France. She'd packed them like they were hers to take. I stood there. The room smelled like dust and old wood and something floral. Christine's perfume soaked into everything. My hands started shaking, not from cold. I carried the third box downstairs, set it in my bedroom, locked the door. When Christine came out at 3 that afternoon, I was sitting at the kitchen table. "Where's Marcus?" I asked. "He had business in town, got a plow service to clear the drive." "You're packing." Her face went flat. We both know this marriage is over. That doesn't give you the right to steal my father's things. I wasn't stealing. She stopped, changed tactics, softer voice. Roy, I know you're upset, but we need to be practical. We'll have to split things, divide assets. There are no assets to divide. The ranch is mine, always has been. We're married. Doesn't matter. Title's in my name. You were never added. Her eyes narrowed. We'll see what my lawyer says. That Hatch fellow? From Denver? She didn't answer. He'll tell you the same thing. Montana's not a community property state. What's mine stays mine. What's yours? I looked around. Well, you can take whatever you brought into this marriage. That's about it. You bastard. Maybe. But I'm a bastard who knows property law. She grabbed her coat, headed for the door. Where are you going? Town. Roads are barely passable. Marcus made it. She left. I watched her taillights disappear. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. Text from Fletcher, from my bowling league. You at the Cottonwood Diner, people are talking. I drove into town, took an hour on the bad roads. The diner sat on Main Street, chrome and red vinyl, windows steamed from the heat inside. Betty Moss had owned it 30 years, knew everything about everyone. I walked in at 5:30. The bell over the door rang. Every head turned. Christine sat in the corner booth, Marcus beside her. 4 other women crowded around. The group looked up when I entered. Christine's eyes were red, had been crying, still was, maybe. The diner went quiet, just the hiss of the coffee maker, the scrape of a fork on a plate. Someone coughed. Betty stood behind the counter, 60 years old, seen everything twice. She poured coffee into a mug without asking, slid it across to me. I took the counter stool, faced forward, didn't look at Christine's booth, but I could hear them, the voices, low but not low enough. He won't let her access their accounts. Controlling, classic abuse pattern. She tried to leave and he blocked the door. Poor thing, trapped out there with him. Betty set down the coffee pot, looked at me, said nothing, but her face said enough. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. Young rancher named Webb. 28, maybe 30. I delivered a calf for him last March. Difficult birth, saved both the heifer and the baby. He'd been grateful then. He walked in, saw me, our eyes met, he looked away, walked past. Sat down in Christine's booth, squeezed in beside Marcus, didn't say a word to me. I drank my coffee, tasted like ash. The diner stayed quiet, that heavy quiet that's louder than any noise. The quiet of judgment, of decisions being made, of a town picking sides. Betty refilled my cup. On the house, she said. Just that, nothing else. I finished the coffee, left a 10 on the counter, stood up. Christine's voice carried across the diner, pitched for everyone to hear. Roy, can we please just talk about this like adults? I turned, looked at her, at the tears, at Marcus beside her, at the women gathered like shields, at Webb, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Nothing to talk about. See you at the courthouse. I walked out. The cold hit like a fist. The truck was frozen. Took 3 tries to start. I sat there while it warmed up, watching the diner through the steamed windows. 40 years I'd worked this county, delivered their calves, treated their horses, driven through blizzards at 3 in the morning because someone's livestock was in trouble, saved animals they couldn't afford to lose, never asked for more than fair payment, 40 years of service. And half that diner believed I was the villain. The truck finally warmed. I drove home through the dark. The road was ice, the sky was clear, stars so bright they looked like they might cut you. January 8th. 15 days until the deadline. The courthouse would open January 6th with skeleton staff. Full operations wouldn't start until January 9th. I'd have to file on the 9th, hope the staff was competent, hope they listened, hope 40 years of reputation meant something. But sitting in that diner, watching that young rancher turn his back on me, I wasn't sure it did. Doc Emerson called again on January 12th, morning. Early enough the sky was still gray. Roy, I hate to ask, I know you've got your own situation, but there's a mare at the Callaway place. Pregnant. She's down. Something's wrong. Be there in 40. The roads had improved. County finally got the plows out. Still rough, but passable if you knew the back ways. The Callaway barn sat 3 miles south of town. Small operation. 6 horses. The mare was a paint, 15 years old. Good bloodline. She lay in the straw, breathing shallow. Sweat darkened her neck despite the cold. Doc Emerson had his equipment spread out. Ultrasound, monitors, the technological side of veterinary work. Useful, but sometimes you needed older knowledge. I knelt beside her, put my hand on her flank, felt the muscle tension, the way she flinched. Not from pain, from position. Something inside her was wrong. Foals breach, I said. I thought so, but I can't. I'm not sure how to. Let me look. I washed up at the spigot, water cold enough to ache. The soap smelled like iodine and tradition, the same soap I'd used for 40 years. I pulled on the glove. The mare shifted when I examined her. Not fighting, just uncomfortable. Tired. The foal was big, strong heartbeat, good signs, but the position was all wrong. Front legs tucked back, head turned, everything stuck. You don't force it, I said. Quiet. Doc Emerson leaned in to listen. When something's in the wrong position, forcing just causes damage. You have to reposition carefully, find the right angle, work with the animal's body, not against it. How do you know where to feel, listen, pay attention to resistance? The body tells you what it needs. I worked slow, found one leg, guided it forward. The mare groaned, shifted. I stopped, waited. Let her settle, then continued, found the second leg, brought it around. The head was the hardest part. Had to turn it, gentle, patient. There, I said. That's the position. Now she can push. It took another 20 minutes, but the foal came healthy, wet and dark and already trying to stand. The mare turned her head, nickered soft, mother sound, ancient as grass. Doc Emerson stood there watching, learning, the way I'd learned from the vet before me, the way it gets passed down. Beautiful work, he said. Just patience. We cleaned up. The Callaways paid in cash, offered breakfast, but I declined. Doc Emerson walked me to the truck. The sun was higher now, cold but bright, the kind of January day that promised spring eventually. Roy, he said, I heard about the diner, what people are saying. I unlocked the truck, didn't answer. For what it's worth, I don't believe it. You've been nothing but helpful to me, patient, generous with your time. Whatever's happening with your wife, that's between you two, but you're not the man they're making you out to be. Appreciate that. He glanced back at the barn, at my vet bag sitting on the tailgate, brown leather, worn smooth in places, cracked in others. The handle was soft from 4 decades of grip. The bag smelled like iodine and liniment in every barn I'd ever walked into. That bag's seen more life than most people, he said. Ought to be in a museum. I picked it up, felt the weight, the familiar balance. Still, got work to do. I drove back to the ranch. The roads were clear enough now that you could make decent time. Main routes open, town accessible. The isolation was breaking. Cal's truck sat in my driveway when I got home. His old Ford, faded blue. He was waiting on the porch, cardboard box beside him. Roads open? I asked. Enough. Figured we had work to do. Inside, he spread documents across the kitchen table. 40 years of property records, deed transfers, title searches, county filings, all printed out. He preferred paper, said screens lied easier than ink. January 15th, Cal said. That was today, the original transfer date. Didn't happen. Nope. Restraining order held. But Roy, he pulled out a folder. Red tab. I've been digging. Marcus Venn Development LLC. I cross-referenced every property transaction in his name for the last 3 years. He laid out 3 documents, 3 different properties, 3 different counties. This one, Billings, April last year, 80 acres, family farm, transferred from Whitfield Holdings to Venn Development. I looked at the name. Whitfield. I know that name. You should. Vanessa Whitfield. She's married to Christine's cousin, or was. They divorced after the property transfer. She lost everything. Farm her grandfather built. Gone. Cal pulled out another document. This one. Great Falls, November 2 years ago, ranch property, 200 acres. Elderly owner, transferred to Venn Development 3 weeks before the owner died. 3 weeks? Convenient timing. Cal's voice went flat. Hard. One more. Helena, last summer, horse ranch. Owner was 73, signed transfer papers, swears he didn't. Signature matched, but he swears he didn't sign. I sat down. The chair creaked. Coffee pot hissed on the counter. The smell filled the kitchen, bitter and strong. How many? I asked. That I found? 6 properties, but I'm only seeing what's been filed. What's public record? Could be more. He's done this before. He's made a career of it. Cal spread the documents wider. Look at the pattern. Rural properties, elderly owners, always right before major development announcements. Subdivisions, commercial zoning, he doesn't hold them, flips them fast, doubles his money in 6 months. And Christine? Cal pulled out one more paper, printed email. He'd gotten it from somewhere. County clerk contacts, probably. People who owed him favors. Christine made first contact with Marcus 14 months ago, before you even knew who he was. There's a paper trail, emails through a shell account. She initiated. The coffee pot clicked off. The silence felt heavy. She recruited him, I said. Or he recruited her. Either way, they've been planning this over a year. And I stood up, walked to the window. The ranch spread out below, 320 acres, cattle in the far pasture, barns standing solid, the mountains beyond, still snow-capped. My father's dream, my life's work. Vanessa Whitfield, I said. She lost her grandfather's farm. Yes. Where is she now? Cal shuffled papers. Renting an apartment in Billings, working retail, bankruptcy filing from September. Does she know about me? Not yet. I turned from the window. Call her. Roy, call her. Tell her what happened here. Tell her we're going after him. Tell her she's not alone. Cal nodded, pulled out his phone. The kitchen filled with the sound of dialing. Outside, the sun hit the snow, bright enough to blind. January 15th. The date had passed. The transfer hadn't happened. But the fight was just beginning. The stories spread faster than the thaw. By January 19th, half the town believed Christine's version. I heard it in pieces, at the feed store, the gas station. Even at the courthouse when I stopped in to check on filing procedures. Heard Roy Dalton's losing it. Always was a quiet one. You never know with the quiet ones. Poor Christine, trapped out there all those years. Betty's diner became ground zero. Christine's friends, women I'd known for years, gathered there every afternoon, the booth in the corner, coffee and pie and gossip. I went in on the 19th because I needed to hear it myself. The bell rang when I entered. The conversations didn't stop this time, just shifted, became pointed. 4 women in the corner booth. Christine wasn't there, didn't need to be. Her army was doing the work. Controlling behavior. Won't let her access money. Blocked her from leaving. I heard he threatened her. Betty poured my coffee, set it down harder than necessary. The mug made a sharp sound against the counter. The coffee smelled burned, overbrewed. She didn't look at me. 2 stools down, a rancher named Davis sat eating pie. I'd treated his mare for colic 3 years back. Saved her life. Charged him half price because I knew his finances were tight. He finished his pie, left cash on the counter, walked past me without a word. The women in the corner booth got louder. Men his age, they can't handle change. Retirement does something to them, makes them paranoid. She's just trying to have her own life. I drank the coffee. Tasted like ash and humiliation. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The heating vent rattled. Someone dropped a fork. The sound was too loud. Sheriff Tom came in, saw me, walked over, stood next to my stool. Roy, he said quietly. You doing okay? Fine. Mentally, I mean. There's resources. County Health Department has counselors. I looked at him. 20 years I'd known Tom Grady. Delivered his daughter's horse. Came out at midnight once when his dog got into antifreeze. Saved the animal. You think I need a counselor? I think you're under a lot of stress. People handle stress different ways. If you need help, I don't need help. I need people to stop believing lies. He shifted, uncomfortable. Thing is, Roy, from where people are sitting, it looks like a marriage falling apart. Man your age, wife wants something different. It's hard. Nobody's judging you for being upset. But they think I'm crazy. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He left. The bell rang again, more cold air. The women in the booth whispered, loud enough I could hear. See? Defensive. Classic sign. I set down my coffee, started to stand. Betty moved fast, refilled my cup even though it was still half full. While she poured, she slid something under the saucer. A napkin, folded small. I palmed it, stood, left a 10, walked out. In the truck, I unfolded the napkin. Betty's handwriting, tight cursive. My daughter found something. Call her tonight. 555-0147. Important. I drove home. The roads were mostly clear now, still icy in patches. The sun was out, but weak. January sun, the kind that promises nothing. That night, I called the number. A woman answered. Young voice, professional. This is Sarah Moss. Is this Mr. Dalton? Roy, your mother said to call. Yes, Mr. Dalton. Roy, I work at Denver Title and Trust. Have for 6 years. I'm a document processor. I handle property transfers. I waited, heard papers rustling on her end. I heard about your situation, Mom told me, and I could lose my job for this, violating client confidentiality, but I think you need to know. I'm listening. Marcus Venn Development LLC. He's done business through our office, multiple transactions. I've processed 3 of them personally. And they're all the same. Rural properties, elderly owners, signatures that look legitimate but feel wrong. I flagged one once. My supervisor said it checked out, told me not to make trouble. Cal walked into this kitchen. I put the phone on speaker, waved him over. Sarah, this is Calvin Hendricks, retired county clerk. What do you mean the signatures feel wrong? A pause. Then, I've processed thousands of documents. You develop an eye. These signatures, they're too perfect, too consistent. Real signatures vary. People's hands shake. Pressure changes. But these, they're practiced, like someone traced them over and over until they got it right. How many has he done? I asked. Through our office? 6 that I know of. But Mr. Dalton, Roy, I pulled the files tonight. Before I called. I'm looking at them now. I took photos. Can you send them? If I do, and my company finds out, I'm fired, blacklisted. I've got student loans, rent. I can't. Don't, I said. Don't risk your job. But you need this to prove. Cal leaned toward the phone. Sarah, if we subpoena you, you'd have to testify. Court order. Company can't punish you for complying with a legal subpoena. Silence. Then, are you going to court? Yes, I said. When? Soon. February 2nd. Hearing on the fraud complaint. More silence. Papers rustling. A long breath. Okay, I'll testify, but you have to subpoena me. Make it official. I can't volunteer this. Understood, Cal said. And Sarah, thank you. My mom says you're a good man, says you've helped half the ranchers in the county, that you don't deserve what's happening. My throat tightened. I didn't trust my voice. I appreciate that. I'll wait for the subpoena. She hung up. Cal and I sat there in the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, wind moved through the pines, that soft sound, winter loosening its grip. Cal pulled out a legal pad, started writing. 6 properties through Denver Title and Trust, plus the 3 I found in other counties. That's 9. At least. Pattern of behavior, serial fraud. Sarah's testimony makes it real, makes it criminal. She's risking everything. So are you. I stood, walked to the window. The moon was up, full enough to light the snow. The barn stood dark against it, solid. My father built that barn in 1948, raised it timber by timber, taught me to do the same. Build things that last, that matter. We file the subpoena tomorrow? I asked. First thing, Judge Foster will sign it, then we wait for February 2nd. 13 days. Cal gathered his papers, slid them into folders, read tabs, everything organized, the way he'd done county work for 40 years. At the door, he stopped. Roy, they're going to come at you hard. Christine's lawyer, Marcus's lawyer, they'll make you look paranoid, controlling, bitter. I know. And half the town already believes it. I know that too. He nodded, put on his coat. The fabric made that sound, nylon against itself. Cold air waited outside. But the evidence doesn't lie, and we've got the evidence. He left. I stood in the doorway watching his taillights disappear, red glow fading into darkness. Inside, the house was quiet. Christine's door stayed locked, had been for days. Marcus was back in Denver. The roads were open now. No reason to stay. I made coffee, sat at the table with Cal's folders, opened them one by one, read everything, the properties, the victims, the pattern. 9 properties, maybe more. 9 families who'd lost what they'd built. And Sarah Moss, document processor, student loans and rent, willing to risk everything to tell the truth. The coffee went cold. I didn't notice. January 25th, dawn. I sat on the porch, watching the sun come up. The air was still cold, but different. Less bite, more promise. The kind of cold that knows it's temporary. My vet bag sat beside me. I brought it out without thinking, just grabbed it from the barn, set it on the porch rail. The leather was cold to touch, cracked in places, the handle worn smooth from decades of carrying. It smelled like iodine and liniment in every barn I'd ever walked into. 40 years of service in a bag. Cal's truck came up the drive at 6:30. He had coffee in a thermos. We sat together without talking for a while, just watched the light change. pink to orange to that hard white of winter morning. Sarah's subpoena went through, he said finally. She'll testify February 2nd. She'll lose her job. Probably. I opened the vet bag. Inside, the instruments were organized like they'd always been. Syringes, gloves, suture kit, iodine bottles, everything clean, everything ready. Even though I'd been retired 5 years, I kept it maintained. Habit, or maybe hope. That bag's older than my granddaughter, Cal said. Had it since 1983, bought it with my first month's pay at the practice. Still good, still works. We drank coffee, the steam rose in the cold air, a crow called from the barn roof, the sound echoed across the pasture. Roy, I need to ask you something. I waited. Is this worth it? I looked at him. 70 years old, retired county clerk, spent 40 years making sure records were clean, honest. He knew the cost of truth better than most. You having doubts? I asked. I'm thinking about consequences. Sarah loses her job, Betty's daughter, blacklisted in her industry. Your reputation in this town? Roy, even if you win in court, half these people will always believe Christine's version. They'll remember the accusations, not the verdict. I know. And the ranch. Even with a court victory, Christine's gonna drag this out. Appeals, delays. You'll spend the next year in legal battles. Cost you $20,000-$30,000 in lawyer fees, maybe more. The coffee had gone lukewarm. I drank it anyway. So you're saying let it go? I'm saying count the cost. A truck came up the road, Doc Emerson's rig. He pulled in beside Cal's truck, got out carrying a bag from the diner. Breakfast sandwiches, the smell of bacon and eggs and grease. He climbed the porch steps. Figured you might not have eaten. He handed out the sandwiches. We ate in silence. The bacon was overcooked, the eggs were cold, but it was food, and we were hungry. Heard you two are going after Marcus Vinn, Doc Emerson said. Word travels, Cal said. Small town, and people are talking. Doc Emerson finished his sandwich, wiped his hands on a napkin. They're saying Roy's on a crusade, that he can't accept his marriage ending, that he's making up stories to hurt Christine. That what you think? I asked. No, I think you're the most honest man I've ever met. But Roy, he hesitated. Is it worth burning everything down? Your reputation, your peace, Betty's daughter's career, all of it, to prove a point? I set down my coffee, picked up the vet bag, felt the weight, the familiar balance, opened it again, the instruments inside caught the morning light. You remember that mare last week? I asked Doc Emerson. The breech foal. You asked me how I knew what to do, how I knew where the legs were, how to reposition without causing damage. You said feel, listen, pay attention to resistance. Right, but there's something else. I pulled out a syringe, old model, glass barrel, precision instrument. When you reach inside an animal that's in trouble, you're looking for what's wrong, what's stuck, what's killing it. And sometimes, I held up the syringe. Sometimes the infection is deep, hidden. You can't see it from outside, but you can feel it, and if you don't cut it out, it spreads, kills the whole animal. I put the syringe back, closed the bag. Marcus Vinn is an infection. He's done this 9 times that we know of. Probably more, he'll keep doing it. And every time, he destroys someone's life. Vanessa Whitfield, her grandfather's farm, the man in Helena who swears he didn't sign those papers. How many more? Doc Emerson looked at Cal. Cal looked at his coffee. Some infections don't heal on their own, I said. You cut them out, or they kill the host. The sun was higher now. The frost on the grass started to melt. Just at the edges, small puddles forming in the low spots of the drive. It's going to cost you, Cal said quietly. I know. Sarah Moss is 26 years old, student loans, career just starting. She testifies, she's blacklisted. I know that too. And your reputation here, Roy, win or lose, you're the man who dragged his wife through court, who aired dirty laundry in public. Small towns don't forget that. I stood up. The porch boards creaked, carried the vet bag to the truck, set it in the passenger seat where it always rode, came back to the porch. 40 years, I said. 40 years I worked this county, delivered calves at 3 in the morning, treated horses people couldn't afford to lose, drove through blizzards, missed holidays. Did it because it needed doing, because that's what you do. You show up, you do the work, even when it's hard, even when it costs you. Cal nodded slowly. Christine's story works because people believe what they want to believe, I continued. Old man, young wife, tale as old as time. Nobody wants to think deeper. Nobody wants to see the pattern, the fraud, the victims. It's easier to think I'm bitter, paranoid, controlling. But the evidence proves I'm right, but being right isn't the same as being believed. I sat back down. The chair was cold. Doesn't matter. Some things are worth fighting for even when you lose. We sat there. 3 men on a porch, coffee going cold, the sun climbing, crows calling, the sound of a ranch waking up. "You're sure?" Doc Emerson asked. "I'm sure." Cal pulled out his phone, started scrolling, making notes. "Then we need to get organized. Hearings in 8 days. We need everyone lined up. Testimony prepared. Documents in order." "Who do we have?" I asked. "Sarah Moss. She's the key. Document expert. Proves the pattern." Cal kept scrolling. "Betty. She can testify to Christine's behavior, the diner conversations, the gossip campaign." "Will she?" "Already said yes. Called me yesterday." "Who else?" "The ranchers, the ones you've helped." "I called 5. All 5 said they'd testify to your character, show the jury who you really are." Doc Emerson raised his hand. "I'll testify about the emergency calls, your dedication, the way you still show up when people need you." Cal nodded, made notes. "And I've got the documents, the original deed, the title history, the proof Christine was never on the title, the evidence of Marcus's other frauds." "That enough?" I asked. "It has to be." That evening, we met at Cal's house. Small ranch on the edge of town, 1 bedroom, kitchen table that doubled as office desk. He'd spread papers everywhere, legal pads, folders. His entire dining room was an evidence board. Betty arrived first, then Doc Emerson, then the ranchers, Fletcher from my bowling league, Webb, the young one who'd turned his back on me at the diner. He showed up too. "I'm sorry," Webb said when he came in. "What I did at the diner. I shouldn't have." "Forget it." "No, I mean it. You saved my heifer last year, and everyone was saying, it's fine." But it wasn't fine. And he knew it. But we moved on because we had work to do. Cal stood at the head of the table, pulled out a folder, red tab. "This is everything. 9 properties, 9 victims, pattern of fraud spanning 3 years in 4 counties. Sarah Moss will testify to the signature forgeries. Betty will testify to Christine's campaign against Roy. The rest of you will testify to Roy's character." He pulled out one more document, old paper, yellow at the edges, careful handling. "And this," he held it up to the light. The paper was translucent in places, thin from age, but the ink was clear, the signature unmistakable. "Original deed, 1947, Floyd Dalton, Roy's father, 160 acres initially, expanded to 320 in 1952, continuous ownership, transferred to Roy in 1979 upon Floyd's death." He set it on the table like a holy relic. "This is the backbone. This proves Christine was never owner, never co-owner, never anything but a spouse in residence. She had no legal standing to transfer what she didn't own." I looked at my father's signature. 68 years old. The ink had faded, but the intent was clear. He'd built something, left it to me, trusted me to keep it. "We present this in court," Cal said, "and Marcus's whole scheme collapses. The forged signature doesn't matter. Christine's signature doesn't matter, because she never owned the property to begin with." The room was quiet. Coffee pot hissed on the counter. Someone's stomach growled. Outside, a dog barked. Fletcher spoke up. "What do you need from us?" "Be at the courthouse February 2nd, 9 a.m., dress clean, tell the truth. That's all." They nodded, one by one. Commitment made. After they left, Cal and I sat alone in his kitchen. The evidence spread before us, the original deed under the lamp. 8 days, he said. 8 days. "You ready?" I picked up the deed, felt the old paper, smelled the age, my father's hand, his dream, his sacrifice. I've been ready since Christmas Eve. February 2nd, 9 in the morning, the county courthouse sat on Main Street. Built 1892, stone steps worn smooth from a century of boots. Inside smelled like floor wax and old wood and the particular mustiness of government buildings. Courtroom B, 2nd floor, Judge Marion Foster presiding, 62 years old, 20 years on the bench, known for being fair but impatient, didn't suffer fools. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Cal. My vet bag sat on the evidence table to my right. Cal had insisted. "Symbol of your life's work," he'd said. "Let the judge see it." The leather looked out of place among the legal folders and printed documents, but it sat there. 40 years of service, Physical proof of who I was. Christine sat across the aisle with her lawyer. Reginald Hatch from Denver. Expensive suit, silver cufflinks, the kind of lawyer who billed by the quarter hour. Marcus sat behind them, not at the defendant's table. Not yet, but present, watching. The gallery was full. Betty, Doc Emerson, Fletcher and the other ranchers, people from town, some supportive, some just curious, small-town entertainment. Judge Foster entered. We stood, she sat, we sat. The bailiff called the case. Dalton versus Dalton. Property fraud complaint with criminal referral regarding Marcus Venn and Venn Development, LLC. Judge Foster looked over her reading glasses. This should be interesting. Mr. Hendricks, you're representing Mr. Dalton? Cal stood. Yes, Your Honor. Proceed with my assistance. I'm not barred anymore, but Mr. Dalton has chosen to represent himself with my counsel. And Mr. Hatch, you're representing Mrs. Dalton? Hatch stood, smooth, confident. Yes, Your Honor, and I'd like to state for the record that this entire proceeding is unnecessary. This is a marital dispute, property division. It belongs in family court, not... I'll decide where it belongs, Mr. Hatch. Sit down. He sat. Judge Foster looked at Cal. Present your evidence. Cal stood, walked to the projector. He'd set it up before we arrived, connected to his laptop. The screen behind the judge's bench flickered on. The first image appeared, the forged deed, December 24th, the one I'd found in Christine's car. Your Honor, this document was discovered by Mr. Dalton on Christmas Eve. It purports to transfer 320 acres, the Dalton family ranch, from Roy Dalton to Venn Development, LLC. Transfer date, January 15th. The document bears Mr. Dalton's signature. Cal zoomed in. The signature filled the screen. Mr. Dalton never signed this document. The signature is forged. Hatch stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Dalton will testify that her husband signed multiple estate planning documents in November. He may not remember. I said, sit down, Mr. Hatch. Judge Foster leaned forward, studied the projection. Mr. Hendricks, how do you know it's forged? Because of this. Cal clicked. A second image appeared. My actual signature, from a veterinary invoice dated November 2024, side by side with the deed signature. The differences were obvious. The R was wrong, the loop on the Y too perfect, the whole thing too practiced. Mr. Dalton has signed his name thousands of times over 40 years. Veterinary bills, emergency call sheets, prescriptions. His signature has natural variation, human hands shake, pressure changes, but this, Cal pointed to the deed signature. This is practiced, traced, copied. Judge Foster made a note. Continue. Cal clicked again. The screen changed. 6 documents, 6 different properties, 6 different signatures. Your Honor, Marcus Venn has done this before. Through Denver Title and Trust, he has processed 6 similar transactions. All rural properties, all elderly owners, all with signature irregularities. Objection. Hatch was on his feet. Hearsay. My client isn't Marcus Venn. This is irrelevant to... Your client conspired with Marcus Venn, Cal said, which makes it entirely relevant, and it's not hearsay. We have a witness. Judge Foster looked toward the gallery. Who? Sarah Moss, document processor at Denver Title and Trust. A young woman stood, 26, professional dress, nervous. She walked to the witness stand. The bailiff swore her in. Cal approached, gentle. Ms. Moss, you work at Denver Title and Trust? Yes, 6 years. How many property transfers do you process per month? 50, sometimes more. And you've processed transfers for Venn Development, LLC? 6 that I personally handled? Yes. What made them unusual? She glanced at Marcus, looked away. The signatures, they're too consistent. Real signatures vary. These looked practiced. Did you report your concerns? Once, my supervisor said it checked out, told me not to make trouble. Cal pulled out printed documents. Your Honor, these are the 6 transfers Ms. Moss processed. I'd like to submit them as evidence. So admitted. Hatch stood. Cross-examination time. He buttoned his jacket, walked toward Sarah like a shark smelling blood. Ms. Moss, you're not a handwriting expert, are you? No. You have no forensic training? No. So your testimony is just a feeling, a hunch, based on nothing scientific. It's based on 6 years of processing documents. I know what real signatures look like. But you're not an expert. I'm experienced. Hatch smiled. Ms. Moss, isn't it true that you're violating company confidentiality by testifying here today? I was subpoenaed. But you could have fought the subpoena, claimed privilege. You chose to testify. Why? What's your relationship with Mr. Dalton? I don't have a relationship with him. I've never met him before today. Then why risk your career? Sarah's jaw tightened. Because I'm tired of processing fraudulent documents and being told to keep quiet. The courtroom went silent. Even Hatch paused. Judge Foster leaned forward. Ms. Moss, are you saying your company knowingly processes fraudulent transfers? I'm saying I've raised concerns and been told to ignore them. Thank you, Ms. Moss. You may step down. Sarah walked back to her seat. Her hands were shaking. Betty reached over, squeezed her shoulder. Cal called the next witnesses. Fletcher, Doc Emerson, the other ranchers. One by one, they testified. Character witnesses, 40 years of service, emergency calls, midnight births, integrity. Then Betty took the stand. Mrs. Moss, you own the Cottonwood Diner? 30 years. Did Mrs. Dalton come to your establishment in January? Multiple times. What was she doing? Talking, crying, telling anyone who'd listen that Roy was controlling, paranoid, wouldn't let her access money, blocked her from leaving. Did you believe her? Betty looked at Christine, then at me, then at the judge. At first, maybe. She's a good actress, but then I started noticing things. What things? She only cried when people were watching. When she thought no one was looking, she'd check her phone, smile, text someone. The tears were performance. Hatch objected. Speculation. Overruled. She's describing what she observed. Betty continued. And she had copies of real estate listings, kept showing them to her friends, places in Denver, California, expensive places. She wasn't scared. She was planning. Thank you, Mrs. Moss. Hatch cross-examined, tried to paint Betty as biased, Roy's friend, loyal to the wrong side. But Betty didn't budge. 30 years running a diner meant she knew how to handle difficult customers. Finally, Cal stood. Your Honor, I'd like to present the definitive evidence. He walked to the evidence table, picked up a document, old paper, yellowed edges, careful handling. Original deed, 1947, Floyd Dalton, Roy's father. He held it up to the light. The paper was translucent, thin with age, but the signature was clear, the date unmistakable. This document proves continuous ownership from 1947 to present. Floyd Dalton to Roy Dalton, unbroken chain of title. And Your Honor, Cal set it on the judge's desk. Christine Dalton appears nowhere in this chain. She was never added to the title, never listed as co-owner, never anything but a spouse in residence. Judge Foster picked up the deed, examined it, put on her reading glasses, studied the signature, the date, the county seal from 1947. This is authenticated? Yes, Your Honor. County records confirm it. I can provide the filing history. Do so. Cal handed up a folder. The judge read through it. Page by page, the courtroom was silent. Just the sound of paper, the heating vent, someone's shoe squeaking on the floor. Finally, Judge Foster looked up. Mr. Hatch, does your client dispute this chain of title? Hatch stood, uncertain now. Your Honor, community property laws. Montana isn't a community property state, and even if it were, the property in question predates the marriage. It's separate property. Mrs. Dalton has no ownership claim. Christine stood up. That's not fair. I lived there. 8 years. I took care of that house. Sit down, Mrs. Dalton. He's taking everything. I'll have nothing. Mrs. Dalton, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. Christine sat, but she was crying now. Real tears. Panic tears. Hatch tried one more angle. Your Honor, even if Mrs. Dalton had no legal right to transfer the property, this is still a civil matter. Marital dispute. It doesn't rise to... Let me stop you there. Judge Foster picked up another document. I have a recording, submitted by your client. You played it earlier, trying to show this was just a marital dispute. Let me play it again. She pressed a button. Christine's voice filled the courtroom, clear, unmistakable. The recording was from the diner, January. Christine talking to one of her friends, her voice carrying. Once the deed transfers, Roy won't have legal standing. Marcus promised me $200,000 for my signature. Enough to start over. Denver, maybe, or California. The courtroom erupted. Judge Foster banged her gavel. Order, order. The room went quiet. Mrs. Dalton, you just confessed to conspiracy to commit fraud, on tape, in open court. She looked at Marcus. Mr. Venn, stand up. Marcus stood. The color had drained from his face. Sheriff Grady, take Mr. Venn into custody. Charges, property fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, bail hearing tomorrow. Tom moved forward, handcuffs out. Marcus didn't resist, didn't speak, just stood there while the cuffs went on. Judge Foster turned to Christine. Mrs. Dalton, you're free to go for now, but I'm referring this case to the district attorney. Expect charges. She banged the gavel. Deed transfer is invalidated. Property remains solely in Roy Dalton's name. Court costs awarded to plaintiff. We're adjourned. The gavel sound echoed. People stood. Voices rose. I sat there. Didn't move. Cal put his hand on my shoulder. It's over, he said. I looked at my vet bag, still sitting on the evidence table. 40 years of service. Still there, still mine. Christine pushed past, didn't look at me. Her lawyer followed, briefcase in hand, already calculating billable hours for the appeal. Marcus was led out in handcuffs. His expensive watch caught the light. The last thing I saw before the door closed. Christine left the ranch that evening. 3 suitcases. A box of clothes. Nothing else. Her father came to help her load the car. He didn't look at me, didn't speak, just carried boxes in silence. She stood at the door for a moment, the threshold, 8 years of marriage behind her, nothing ahead. Roy, don't. She got in her car. The engine started. Taillights glowed red against the February twilight. I watched from the porch as they disappeared down the gravel drive, red fading to black, then nothing. The door behind me stood open. Cold air spilled in. I went inside, closed it, locked it. The sound of the deadbolt was final, definitive. The house was mine again. Cal called that night. Marcus made bail, $50,000, but there's 6 more victims coming forward. Sarah's testimony opened the floodgates. District attorney's building a case. Good. And Christine? Gone. She'll be charged. Conspiracy, maybe fraud. Depends on what the defines. I stood at the kitchen window. The moon was up, half full, enough light to see the barn, the pasture beyond, 320 acres, my father's dream, still standing. Cal? Yeah? Thank you. You did the hard part. I just pushed paper. Still. Thank you. I hung up, made coffee, sat at the table. The house was quiet, different quiet than before. Not the silence of betrayal, the silence of peace. April 4th, my father's birthday. He would have been 91. The morning came soft, warm, the kind of warmth that promises summer eventually. The snow was gone, except in the deepest shadows. Green grass pushed through the brown, new growth, spring arriving on schedule. Doc Emerson called at 6. Roy, I've got a situation. First-time heifer at my place. She's trying, but the calf's not coming right. Be there in 20. I grabbed my vet bag. The leather was warm from the house, still smelled like iodine, still ready. The heifer was young, nervous. The calf was breech, front legs tucked wrong, head turned. The position I'd seen 100 times, maybe more. Let me show you something, I said to Doc Emerson. I worked slow, explaining each step, where to feel, how to reposition, when to let the animal rest, when to help. The old knowledge passed forward, the way it had been passed to me. The calf came healthy, wet and dark, bawling before he hit the straw. The heifer turned. Started licking. Mother sound. Ancient. Right. Beautiful, Doc Emerson said. Life usually is, when you don't force it. We cleaned up. The farmer paid. Insisted we stay for coffee. We sat on his porch watching the sun climb. The air smelled like thawed earth, manure and new grass, spring. Cal's truck came up the drive. He got out carrying a thermos and 3 cups. Heard you were here. Thought I'd join. We sat together. 3 men drinking coffee. The pasture spread out below. Cattle grazing, calves playing. The mountains beyond still had snow on the peaks, but the valleys were green. Land remembers who tends it, Cal said. I looked at the ranch, my father's ranch, his work, his sacrifice. Still here, still producing, still alive. Guess it does. That evening, I sat on my porch, the same chair my father used, the door behind me, solid, secure, mine. The vet bag sat beside me. 40 years of service, not done yet. A meadowlark called from the fence post. The sound of spring, of renewal. The sky was that particular blue you only get in April, clear, bright, full of promise. The mailbox flag was up. I walked down the drive. Inside, mixed with bills and junk mail, was a letter. Hand-addressed, Vanessa Whitfield, Billings, Montana. I opened it standing there in the evening light. Mr. Dalton, I heard about your case, about Marcus, about what you did. He took my grandfather's farm, 80 acres, 3 generations of work. I lost everything. The district attorney called. Said you'd be willing to testify, to help me get it back. I don't have much, but I need to try. Would you help me? Vanessa. I folded the letter, looked back at the house, the barn, the pasture, everything my father built, everything I'd fought to keep. Some infections don't heal on their own. You cut them out, or they kill the host. I walked back to the porch, sat down, pulled out my phone, started typing. 40 years I've been reaching into animals stuck in the wrong position. Calves turned backwards, foals twisted sideways. You learn something doing that work. Force breaks things, patience saves them. Christine wanted force, fast money, quick escape. City lights, Marcus wanted force, steal what wasn't his, shortcut his way to wealth. But land doesn't work that way. You tend it slow, you earn it by showing up every frozen morning, every drought summer, every season the bank account runs thin. My father built this house in 1947, board by board, raised me in that back bedroom, taught me you don't own land. You borrow it from your children and pay it back with your work. I don't have children. Thought Christine might change that. Too old for babies, but maybe family in other ways. Turned out she saw the ranch as a prison, saw me as the warden. Maybe she was right that I'm boring. I do the same work every day, fix the same fences, deliver the same calves, drink coffee on the same porch. But boring's just another word for reliable. And reliable's just another word for there when you're needed. Christine went looking for real men, found a criminal who wanted to steal my father's sacrifice. What she didn't expect was that boring old men know how to read signs. We've been diagnosing problems for decades. We know when something's wrong before the fever shows. Now it's spring, the calves are coming, the grass is greening, the door behind me is mine. Doc Emerson's truck comes up the drive. Another emergency call. Mare in labor, I stand, stretch my stiff back, pick up the vet bag. Still needed, still here, still tending. The sun catches the mountains, snow-capped but sun-warmed. A calf bawls in the pasture, new life. The meadowlark sings its evening song. I walk to my truck, the leather bag in my hand. 40 years of service, not done yet. Some things are worth the fight.